Okay, Blue Skies Political Podcast. First time we're doing this in video format. Very lucky to have a couple of really good buddies here to talk about the Mali mission. This week we returned to Parliament and the Trudeau government sprung a Mali mission, which they've looked at for many years. But we have some concerns with it. But we're also going to talk about peacekeeping and combat operations in general. We've got James Bezan, the defense critic for the Conservatives, and Jody, who a very well-known soldier, advocate, sniper, and Ottawa City Councillor. So a politician too.
Yeah, barely.
Three politicians.
Barely.
Well, you love it though. It's
I
public service.
I enjoy my time serving the public. Yes.
Do you take more shots in politics than you did on the battlefield?
Well, it's harder because I can't return fire the same way, right? I used to have issues were easy. You'd call in an airstrike, or you'd call in artillery, and good to go, or you shoot it yourself, but. You can't do that around council table.
Yeah,
so,
more duck and hide.
Or with the you have these they're like these bands of guerrillas. They call the media. They come after you for the weirdest shit.
I always thought they were assassins, but okay, guerrillas.
Yeah, guerrilla fighters, assassins. Like it's they want to harp on $1,200 and $12 billion worth of budgets you pass, and that's what they want to harp on, $1,200 worth of hockey tickets.
But I think people like your straight talk in politics, and look, we're very proud of your career as an author too, Unflinching.
Thanks, man.
And at Everyday Heroes. It's got some guy named O'Toole talking about how good it is.
Yeah, it is. Well, that book I'm really proud of because it was a bestseller before it hit the shelves.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it's not my story. That's the best part. It's 21 different stories, and then we're gonna do more. Simon & Schuster's going to print these books until we're out of storage.
When awesome. I read this...
I think I might be putting them in a spot.
In advance.
Yeah.
Trevor Jane's story in there, who I've since met, became friends. We worked on the recovery of Swiss Air together.
Yeah.
He was one of the physicians that had to work with the tremendous toll.
That guy should be in the Hall of Heroes if we had one.
And now advocating for vets. But James, we started the week off with the media, talking about our concerns with the Mali mission. Spell out what the Mali mission really is.
Well, as we know, it was leaked to the media last Friday that there was going to be the announcement of finally, after 2 years of promises of returning to peacekeeping, 600 soldiers, 150 police officers doing UN peacekeeping missions, then numerous minister trips over to West Africa and Central Africa, trying to find out what mission we'd go with, and after much consultation, and they decided to go mute for a year and a half. And then because of the disastrous trips to India, China, and Vietnam by Prime Minister Trudeau and becoming a laughingstock on the world stage, he said, well, we better do something on global affairs. And I think they just decided to pull this out of the hat and say, okay.
You think this is to distract from that?
Yeah, I really
That's the timing of it. But going to
it. But this is a distraction. This is about trying to, also think about the fact that Prime Minister Trudeau promised all these peacekeepers, but meanwhile, the numbers have dropped by the hundreds to where this month actual soldiers serving on UN peacekeeping missions is only 22. So he's trying to change the channel on this, and he's trying to step up.
But we've had low numbers on UN missions for decades.
But we've been sitting around.
We've been with NATO. I never deployed with the UN.
Never.
I deployed with NATO all 3 times.
But we've always maintained numbers of 200 to 300.
What are the numbers on this one? So we know what is the Mali mission, because there's not a lot of traditional boots on the ground, is it?
So let's look at what they've told us, which isn't very much. There's no transparency here, and that's again plays to the narrative that this has been put together rather quickly.
Numbers.
So they're saying maybe 250 troops. It's an air task force, 4 armed up Griffins, 2 Chinooks for transport and medevac. We're looking at maybe some special operation forces for close combat support.
We've had SF in that area for ever.
The French are there.
Unofficially, right?
Unofficially,
but here's the problem, right? We do this on the cheap all the time. Mm-hmm. We bought those Chinooks because we had 0 air assets when I was in Afghanistan. The Griffins are armored up with miniguns on the side. They're not gunships. No. These are not gunships by any stretch of the imagination. No. We look at these budgets that they put through. You were in the Air Force. For whatever reason, Canadian Air Force does not want to own gunships. It's just not.
They're not.
They don't want to do it. No, but how much do you think a Super Cobra would cost in 2018?
We deployed the Sea King to Somalia. We deployed a maritime helicopter.
But this is when I'm on the ground calling in airstrikes. I lost air cover twice in combat because it would, the American and British call signs. When the Americans and the Brits get in trouble, that's where they go. Sorry, dude. We weren't in danger of getting overrun or anything, but it's like, wouldn't it be great to call for air support and you get a Canadian accent on the other
end?
So
this is the concern. So now, and then, where's the chain of command? What are our allies or our partners in this UN mission? Are they going to
but what's the point? Here's my problem is I get Chinooks are great.
Yeah.
One RPG brings down a Chinook.
Yeah.
And they're not messing around in Mali. And what are these Griffins going to do? They don't have, from what I know, maybe I'm wrong. I've been out of the game for over a decade, but they don't have the target acquisition systems. They don't have the guns. They don't have their air support in like the best way we can, but we don't have the assets for this kind of thing, in my opinion.
So what do you think with these assets we can do in Mali? It would just be a support type role.
Well, what they've described, what little I've read, is exactly what we're going to do. But to say the Griffins are going to protect these choppers I think it's like, look, if I was flying in one of the Chinooks, I'd feel better. But at the same time, it's not dedicated air support. And then I was reading in the Star, they're going to emphasize female soldiers, and I don't know what that means. And it's not a problem, but unless numbers have changed, the CAF is only 30% female. So are we going to just keep deploying women over and over and over again until we burn them all out, or how does that work?
Well, our army, as you know, is pretty much already burned out, and our special forces, especially because of the constant rotation, we're still recovering from the Afghanistan mission. Do you think it's the time to actually be sending something like this to Mali?
Well, let's one thing that Jody just said, the cost. Are we doing this on cheap? We don't know. How many women are they going to send? What percentage? I know it's about the LC policy from the United Nations. You can talk more about that, Erin. But again, we don't know what that exact number is going to be and what they're going to be doing, and how they'll be received by our partner nations. Never mind the situation in Mali. And let's remember that in Mali, and you talked about not being armed up. That not only are we dealing with a failed state and a government that was taken down by a military coup in 2013, and we got the separatists in northern Mali in the Azawar area. You also have multiple terrorist organizations that are working, and the French, who are there in a combat role, not part of the UN mission. The French have described the terrorist groups that they're fighting with, these Islamic jihadist organizations, that they're better equipped and better fighters than what they encountered in Afghanistan against the Taliban.
Oh, for sure.
So these guys have man pads. They have that surface-to-air missile capabilities that they pulled out of Libya. They have rocket-propelled grenades. They have sniper rifles and light artillery. And they aren't scared about attacking bases. And a number of the casualties, the 162 peacekeepers that have already been killed in Mali, the most deadly UN mission in the world, has happened on bases, not roadside bombs.
Well, and Mali and Niger are famous for being kidnap capitals too. We had Fowler and Louis Gay kidnapped and held in Mali. Yeah. That's a risk as well, because there will be some civilian support components or global affairs, development assistance. There's always.
Well, we had Glenn Beery assassinated in Afghanistan. It's not impossible, right? Like my problem is when I don't like the word peacekeeping to begin with, because it's I was a bouncer. Like, I don't know if you guys ever did anything like that, but there's no such cops don't keep peace by being nice, right? And the rules of engagement. We have Dallaire was in Rwanda with the rules of engagement that were out of this world, to the point where a unit allowed itself to be massacred. So that's where I get nervous. And then when I see we're there in a support role, okay, well, we'll see what happens. But there's no law against being attacked.
Yeah,
right?
and you look at what happened in Rwanda and to Dallaire. He was waiting for some UN bureaucrat. Actually, it was Kofi Annan to come back from
the weekend.
He
couldn't get an answer.
They couldn't get an answer from anyone about whether or not to engage.
Well, this raises the wider question.
Right.
Are the Liberals in their 2015 campaign talked about Pearsonian peacekeeping, Canada's commitment to peacekeeping. Pearson won the Nobel Prize for helping bring it with the Suez crisis. Is peacekeeping in that blue helmet mythical sense, is it even possible today, especially in a place like Mali?
Not in Mali.
No, I think it's possible, but you can't go in there. Look, we were good, and we got our reputation in Bosnia because in the Mitic pocket we didn't run. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a battle that was fought.
Yeah,
that is not in the Canadian history books because of the government of the day suppressed it, and that's fine. But you don't peacekeep without busting heads, and that's one of the things I keep saying. And people don't seem to understand. you're not dealing with, in Bosnia it was Croats and Serbs, organized militaries signing documents and saying, okay, we're going to stop shooting today, and then we would go in the middle and keep them apart because the guys at the front lines always want to get at each other's throats. This is dealing with how many groups?
Six or seven.
6 or 7 groups. None of them want to talk to each other. There's zero peace accords. It's not what peace are you keeping?
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't understand. Like, call it nation building, because that's what we're doing. You're trying to reinstall a government is basically what the UN is trying to do. Put in an actual functioning government that will keep their own peace. Right now, we're literally just trying to keep it from becoming a massacre.
Well,
from what I can tell.
Has there ever been a case where there's UN peacekeepers and the French in a combat role? Because obviously Mali is a former French colony,
right.
And a member of the Francophonie. Canada has been engaged diplomatically, including with the Harper government. We were one of the biggest aid donors to Mali.
$10 billion.
We've been doing a lot of stuff.
Our SF are training their military.
Yeah, but I don't see a need personally for this type of role because there's no clear objective. The ROE are fuzzy. You're going to be. Is there going to be a debate on this? Because Harper always had a debate.
We're trying to negotiate that to get a debate with a vote. I don't know if we'll get the vote. I think we might have the debate next week. But you're a shadow minister for foreign affairs. Do you think this is in our national interest?
Well, they haven't been able to articulate the national interest here, other than, and we were saying this before, Trudeau has a really bad record in the last few months on diplomatic foreign affairs issues. And everyone knows their number one policy is to get that Security Council seat temporarily when the vote comes up in a couple of years. So much so that our UN ambassador is one of Trudeau's political organizers, and he's running a political campaign to win that vote. I'm very concerned when we're deploying our men and women to a very difficult area of the world without clear ROE, clear objectives, and a sense that it's all for Trudeau's UN play. We should be, personally, I think, pushing the UN to reform in a lot of areas, including peacekeeping. Yeah. Our forces are
but can
amongst
Canada
the best
do
in the
that
world
without sitting at the security table?
Absolutely.
Because
in NATO,
I don't want to. If you rewind Op Medusa, we don't like the objectives there were clear in each objective, but the overall strategic goals weren't existent. General McChrystal says that when he went in there was no strategic goal being at the end, right? So, what's wrong with deploying peacekeepers if it means like our long-term national goal is to get a seat at the UN security table?
Who was the architect of Medusa? Okay.
Yeah, come on. He was there. Come on, give him a break. But my point is that Medusa was just one battle out of thousands, really. But my point is, our soldiers not meant to be the what is it?
War is politics by another means.
Politics by another means,
Clausewitz, right? What is the objective?
So
what is the politics?
Maybe there are legitimate long-term objectives of the Trudeau government in deploying to Mali right now that will pay off later. And as a soldier, I'll tell you, we just want to deploy.
Yeah, the guys want.
And
they're more than able and capable.
But how about deploying, Jody, where there's also a national interest for Canada beyond?
Well, this is what I'm saying. I don't know.
Ukraine. You brought up a mission to Ukraine. What do you think we should do?
So, like I've been asked many times over the last few days, well, if not Mali, where? Well, we had a chance to be part of the UN peacekeeping mission in Colombia, where there's actually peace to keep. Stand between the FAR and the government.
But would we have been?
We were asked, and we took a pass.
And we've got great relationships with Colombia.
We've had a long history in helping out Haiti. And Trudeau has actually pulled all of our peacekeepers out of Haiti. We could put police officers back into Haiti again. And we have Ukraine, which is a chance and opportunity to mature the Minsk agreements, to champion that at the UN so that we can get to a point in place that we can bring peace to Donbass, so that Ukraine can get control over their eastern border, and that foreign powers at play would.
Is that a UN mission?
That could be a UN mission.
Or is it a NATO mission?
Well, Ukraine's asking for the UN.
Because we've been there as in NATO, part of NATO.
Well, we're not.
We've got guys
that just got back
from.
A bunch of my buddies just got back from Ukraine.
But we're actually out there on bilateral operations. we don't have actual NATO missions.
As a soldier, you want to deploy, you want to serve your country, but one of the things, I've thought a lot about this. Most soldiers don't want to die or for nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the overall question that you were getting at, Erin, is what's the point of Mali? And I guess one thing we're going to have to wait and see is what is their overall long-term goal.
Yeah.
It could be very legitimate. We don't know.
Yeah.
But what's a couple hundred air crew and some trigger pullers going to do on the ground? Like, who are we evacuating? Who are we supporting? Yeah. If the French are in combat and they're going to be overrun, are we flying in reinforcements?
There's so many questions, Jody. In my colleague MP Robert Kitchen yesterday asked Seamus O'Regan, the Veterans Minister, is there a budget and a plan for these peacekeepers?
Especially when they come back.
Well,
for when they come home, you mean?
PTSD. We know there's going to be incidents, but methylquin. The malaria area in Mali. I was asking the Global Fund, which fights malaria, I was asking this question today or yesterday in committee. What are the alternatives to methylquin? Because certainly the confidence in that drug is shot, right? So what will we provide to?
I took it, by the way. I'm okay.
You are okay. I think you're damn okay. So there's. And are they preparing for, not just the physical cost, but the mental cost of some of this? And as you said, our men and women, and it goes without saying, all sides of the House believe in our men and women.
Yeah.
It's just we owe them a debate, a vote, and proper training, equipment, and support afterwards before we send them anywhere. And it has to be in our national interest.
It has to. And you look at and you talk about what if the French get into trouble. I'd be more comfortable. If we're going to do Mali and that's about removing that terrorist threat, then let's go into the partnership as part of the coalition with the French, rather than under
this is what
a real role.
If you want to go in, let's go in.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's set. We got dogs on the end of a chain that will do a lot of damage to these guys in Mali. Send them in. They are good at it. We can kill them from 3.5 kilometers away. We've proven that. I know the guys that did it.
Yeah.
They're mad dogs on the end of a leash, but they're ours.
Yeah.
And if we want to use them, just take the chains off. And let's just do it. But this safe thing, it kind of reminds me of, no offense to you guys, but who was Gaddafi?
Libya.
I get it. Yeah, Air Force, whatever. But when you go in, you got to go in all. To me, you got to go all in.
Yep.
There's you can't half-ass it.
But if you're going all in, then you go with everything.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Let's send in a squadron of our special forces or whatever they call it, platoon, company, and let's rotate them in and out.
To protect.
We can you can send a company of regular army guys to support them, in the base, and they'll kick a lot of ass. But you have to be prepared for casualties.
Absolutely.
And I think the biggest problem is that we learned in Afghanistan, the Canadian public is shy on casualties.
Well, or they want to know that it's for the proper cause and international interest, and that's why we need the debate.
We need debate, and we're going to study this at committee as well down the road.
But this is the question that you need to ask: is what's your point?
Yeah, we asked it yesterday.
Yeah, and what was the answer?
Nothing.
Well, listen,
we're just.
Listen. This is the first video trial of the Blue Skies podcast. I think it's been fun. It's been a good conversation. We're going to maybe do this again after we get the debate. We see what this mission turns into.
I'm around.
Your expertise in this. You've got a podcast too. What is it, Jody?
I have the Jody Mitic podcast, which has been silent since May 2017. But I'm meeting my producer actually later today. And
I'd be happy to be a guest, but you never call me.
Bro, I've been off for a year. You were still... Wait. No, you weren't minister when I stopped doing it, but anyway.
And your books, for people, especially everyday heroes, to hear men and women of the Canadian Forces tell their own story, pretty special. You help bring this together, so kudos.
Thanks.
You got something else maybe coming down the pipe too.
Well, I'm hoping another one of those.
Good.
I got a few other projects I'm working on. You're part of Arcs of Fire, right?
Yeah.
Are you?
Well, I know a lot of them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I'm part of that. Man, I got 1,000 things on the go. The only thing I don't have is a life.
That's why you're a politician. I don't think any of us.
Yeah.
And we'll see you on May 10th for the Sam Sharp.
We will. But
to the Standing Back Party Under the Stars at City Hall on the
When's that?
And do you have any questions in the house today on Mali?
No, I don't.
No. You were good yesterday. So listen, thank you guys for coming out. It was a good discussion. Blue
You validate
Skies
parking, right?
Yes,
right, just making
Anthony,
sure.
take care of that. The Blue Sky's a conversation. So if you've seen this online, you've listened to the podcast, let me know what you think. Erin O'Toole MP on Twitter, on Facebook, all this sort of stuff. If you want us to do a session, if you want us to have Jody back and talk about council or being a sniper, we'll bring these conversations to you. But guys, thanks for coming out today, and thanks for blue skying the Molly mission with me.
What?
Out.